Hello everyone, good morning. So now I will be discussing the nematodes. So first one, we're going to read the learning objectives. So at the end of this chapter, the student should be able to, number 1, describe the general characteristic of medically important nematodes and characterize the different nematodes as to their A. General feature, B. Source of infection, C. Mode of transmission, D. Clinical manifestation, and E. Treatments, and F. Prevention and control of infection. So now let us start. So what is nematodes? Nematodes, or roundworms, are unsegmented cylindrical worms with bilaterally symmetry. Their life cycle includes 3 stages. We have the egg, larvae, and adult. They have a body coverage called cuticles and long muscle underneath that help with side-to-side movement. Nematodes are separate sexes, with females being larger than males. So, adult nematodes have complete digestive, nervous, excretory, and reproductive systems. Their digestive tract include a mouth, stomodium, intestines, and anus. So, mamaya, i-explain yan ng mga kasama ko. And, yes, the nervous system consists of the dorsal and ventral nerves linked to a head nerve center with sensory organ like ampids and phasmids, ending in detections that you also have. So guys, ang nematodes is a metaphorical. So guys, ang tandaan natin, ang nematodes po ay isang bulate or worm. So, take note na ang nematodes po ay mas malaki po ang bulate na babae compare sa bulate na lalaki. So, mamaya i-explain lahat yan ng mga kasama ko. Lahat ng mga aspect, lahat ng mga pwedeng i-prevent, lahat ng pwede natin gawin para maiwasan ang iba't ibang uri ng bulate. So guys, ang nematodes po ay may 3 category na sa part ng body natin. Meron po tayong intestinal, meron din po tayong intestinal tissues, and blood tissues. So, mamaya explain natin. So, let us start muna sa intestinal. So guys, sa nematodes or sa may intestinal banda, intestinal category, meron po tayong Ascaris lumbricoides. So, this is the largest intestinal roundworm in the human. Infection occurs by ingesting food or water contaminated with embryonated egg from human feces. In the small intestine, the larvae hatch, penetrate the intestinal wall, travel through the blood of the liver and lungs, then move into the airways. They are coughed up with swallowed, returning to the intestines to mature into adult. So these adult lay egg that exit the body through feces, and the egg can survive in soil or water or beer. So matatagpuan po itong Ascaris or Ascaris sa largest intestinal roundworm. So, meron po tayo ditong cycle ng Ascaris lumbricoides. So, the first one is nasa yung adult in the small intestine. Tapos, after nun, magiging feces na siya. After na maging feces, naging fertilized egg na siya. Hanggang sa ma-develop na siya. Hanggang sa maging embryonated egg with L3 larvae. Tapos, magiging ingestion of embryonated eggs. Tapos, hanggang sa maging larvae na siya are coughed up and swallowed, re-entering the gastrointestinal tract. Yes. So, the next one is epidemiology and pathogenesis. So, Ascaris is the most common helminth infection globally, especially in warm regions of poor sanitization. It's commonly spread in areas where human feces are used as fertilizer or where open defecation occurs. Young children are most at risk due to the plaguing and contaminated soil. Yes, yung mga anak po natin na naglalaro po ng mga soil sa paligid, yun yung mga common na pinagkakawaan ng mga natin. Kaya medyo or risk talaga ang mga young children sa Ascaris na to, sa bulate na to. So, also they can contribute to malnutrition by consuming nutrients. Yes, the most serious harm happiness during larval migration to the lungs, which causes inflammation. Yeah. So, the next one is the disease of intestinal Ascaris. So, ang disease nito is Ascariasis. Mild infection are often asymptomatic and may not go unnoticed until a worm is passed to the stool. Yes, hindi po siya, wala po siyang binibigay na sintomas, hindi rin po siya nanonotice until mamatay na lang po yung bulate sa pamamagitan ng feces natin o maging stool na siya. So, symptoms occur during larval migration, which can trigger allergic reaction like asthma or Loeffler syndrome. The lungs involvement can lead to pneumonia. Yes, magiging pneumonia po talaga siya. In the intestines, multiple adult worm can cause abdominal pain, vomiting, fever, and bloating. So, the next one is a laboratory diagnosis of Ascaris. Diagnosis is established by finding of the egg in the stool specimen. So, yes po, kapag mag-itetest po natin yung mga bata, pumupunta po tayo sa hospital. Kapag may fever po yung bata, gina-check po talaga yung feces niya sa laboratory para ma-diagnose po kung ano po bang klase ng worm ang nakaka-apekto sa kalusugan. In case of heavy worm burden, the adult worms may present in the stool or be regurgitated. Larvae may be recovered from sputum during the pulmonary phase of disease. So, ito naman yung treatment niya. So, ang treatment po ng intestinal na which is ang Ascaris, drug that have been proven effective are mebendazole, albendazole, and Virantel. Pamuet. So, ang mebendazole po, yun po yung medyo lang po. Tapos, ang albendazole naman po, yung medyo mild na po siya. Ay, medyo moderate na po siya. And, Virantel or Virantel is masyado na po malala yung sakit or kailangan siyang i-treatment na very hard. So, dito po yung example niya, Ascariasis worm. So, guys, very mahaba po siya. Baka yung po niya is babae, kaya medyo malawak na po siya. So, ito po yung Ascaris worm coming out of the anus. Meron din po tayong Ascaris worms, enter to the stomach to the vomited and may come out of external ribs. So, pwede po siyang pwede po siyang lumabas sa bunganga natin or sa puwet po natin. That's all. Thank you for listening. And
So, good day everyone. I am Narjana and Amil, and I will be discussing Enterobius vermicularis or pinworm. So, Enterobius vermicularis is a small yellowish white parasitic worm. Its eggs are oval and flat on one side. Infection occurs when a person ingests the eggs, which hatch into larvae in the small intestine and mature in the large intestine. At night, fertilized female worms migrate to the anal area to lay eggs, causing itching. Scratching can spread the eggs to surfaces like clothing, linens, and dust. Infection can happen through the autoinfection, a hand-to-mouth contact, or retroinfection, which is eggs hatch near the anus and re-enter the body. So, kung narinig nyo na yung pinworm o minsan tawag din sa kanya ay sitworm, so siya yun. So, maliit siya na parasitic worm na parang sinulid, kulay white to yellowish white. Yung eggs niya parang oval pero may isang side na flat. Now, paano tayo nahahawa? So, kapag accidentally na nakakain natin yung egg, pwedeng galing sa kamay na madumi, sa pagkain na na-contaminate o sa mga surface like doorknobs or bedsheets. So, kunyari, kumamot ka ng puwet kasi makati, then hindi ka naghugas ng kamay, tapos kumain ka, so doon na nag-start magsimula yung infection. So, sa loob ng katawan is magha-hatch yung eggs sa small intestine, then yung worms na lalaki doon, tapos lilipat sa large intestine. So, ang unique sa kanila is yung female worm, lalabas siya sa puwet ng infected person habang natutulog siya. Gabi talaga yung timing para mangitlog sa paligid ng anus, kaya ang pinaka-common na symptoms ay yung matinding pangangati sa puwet sa gabi. So, kapag kinamot, pwedeng mapunta sa kamay yung eggs. Then, pag nahawak mo yung mouth mo or kinain mo something, then, yun, cycle na ulit. Kaya, tinawag din siyang autoinfection. Tapos, minsan, may case din ng retroinfection kung saan yung itlog na nasa labas bumabalik ulit sa loob ng katawan. So, ito naman is yung life cycle ng Enterobius vermicularis or pinworm. So, isa sa pinaka-common na intestinal parasites, lalo na sa kids. So, una na nangyayari is, yung infected person ay may adult female worm sa large intestine, usually sa rectum area. So, kapag gabi, lumalabas yung babaeng worm sa anus para mangitlog sa skin sa paligid nito, kaya madalas makati yung puwet sa gabi. So, pangalawa, dahil sa sobrang kati, kinakamot ng bata o ng tao ang puwet, tapos napupunta sa kamay o sa kuko yung eggs. Next is kapag hindi naghugas ng kamay at kumain o humawak ng gamit, na isasalin ulit ang egg sa bibig at doon na na-infect ulit ang katawan. So, ang tawag dito is autoinfection. So, pagkatapos ng egg sa tiyan, mag-hatch sila sa small intestine, then pupunta sa large intestine, kung saan maging adult worms, and the cycle repeats. So, example is, isang bata na may pinworm, na kinamot yung puwet tapos kumain ng junk food without washing hands. So, ayun, balik ulit ang cycle ng infection. So, epidemiology and pathogenesis. Pinworm infection is common worldwide, especially in temperature climates. Those at higher risk include young children, caregivers, institutionalized individuals, and people living in crowded environments. The main symptom is anal itching caused by a hypersensitivity reaction to eggs laid around the anus. Scratching can cause skin damage and secondary infections. In some cases, like with ascaris, pinworms may block the appendix, potentially leading to appendicitis. So now, sino ba yung kadalasan na tinatamaan ng pinworm? So, well, common naman siya sa buong mundo, pero mas madalas sa mga lugar na malamig yung temperature like sa US, Europe, and etc. Pero kahit dito sa Pilipinas, common pa rin siya lalo na sa mga bata, especially yung nasa school or daycare kasi dikit-dikit sila and hirap pa sa hygiene minsan. And kahit adults, pwedeng mahawa lalo na yung caregiver, lalo na kung caregiver ka ng bata or kapatid mo ay may pinworm. So, minsan is may symptom talaga. So, minsan yung main symptom talaga is itching sa puwet, lalo na kapag gabi. Yung para bang hindi ka mapakali. Tapos, pwede ring maging cause ng skin irritation and kung lagi mo kinakamot. So, baka magkaroon siya ng skin wounds or worse is magka-infection. So, in rare cases is sinasabi rin na may mga worm na napupunta sa appendix kaya posibleng ma-trigger ng appendicitis pero sobrang bihira lang siya na mangyari. So, ang disease ng Enterobis vermicularis ay tinatawag na enterobiasis. So, most enterobiasis or pinworm infection cases shows no symptoms. When symptoms do occur, the most common is intense itching or pruritus ani, especially around the anal or vaginal area at night. Other possible symptoms include intestinal discomfort and mild nausea. The nighttime itching can disrupt sleep, causing irritability in affected individuals. So, sa dulot ng pinworm ay enterobiasis. So, most of the time, wala talaga siyang symptoms. Pero kung meron, is ang pinaka-obvious ay yung makati yung puwet sa gabi. So, nakaka-istorbo siya sa tulog. So, minsan, ang mga bata nagiging irritable and hindi makatulog ng maayos and kadalasan umiiyak sa gabi. For girls, minsan umaabot pa yung worm sa vaginal area kaya nagkakaroon ng vaginal itching or irritation. May mga rare cases din ng urinary tract symptoms dahil dyan. For example is, may batang babae na laging umiiyak at hindi makatulog. So, akala ng parents is may UTI lang. Pero nung sinubukan nila yung Scotch tape test, ayun, may pinworm pala. So, dito naman is kita nyo yung real life image ng pinworm sa anal area. So, maliit lang siya na parang sinulid na white. Minsan, sa sobrang dami ng worms, kita mo na sila na gumagalaw sa labas ng anus. Super uncomfortable siya, lalo na sa bata. Kaya if may anak or kapatid kayo na laging nangangamot ng puwet sa gabi, ipa-check nyo na siya. So, pinworm is definitely diagnosed by detecting eggs or adult female worms using the Scotch tape or cellophane tape method. Because the eggs are small and rarely found in stool, multiple samples may be needed to confirm the diagnosis. So, para ma-confirm kung may pinworm, hindi pwedeng stool sample lang. Kasi madalas walang worm sa poop natin. Kaya ang ginagamit ay Scotch tape method. So, ang gagawin mo is pagkagising sa umaga, bago maligo o mag-poop, ididikit mo yung transparent tape sa paligid ng puwet. Then, ilalagay sa glass slide, tapos tingnan mo siya under microscope. Kasi yung eggs and minsan kahit yung mismong worm nandoon lang sa surface ng skin. So, to prevent the spread of pinworm infection, it's important to maintain good personal hygiene, keep fingernails short, wash beddings regularly, and treat infected individual eggs promptly. To avoid ingesting or inhaling eggs, the house should be cleaned thoroughly, especially hard-to-reach areas like underbeds, window sills, and over doors using a damp mop. So, finally, prevention and control. So, syempre, ang pinaka-basic ay good hygiene. Syempre, gupitin yung kuko, maghugas ng kamay, especially after gumamit ng CR and bago kumain. Important din yung regular washing ng bedsheets, pillowcases, and underwear. So, wag lang basta labhan, dapat mainit na tubig if possible para patay lahat talaga yung eggs. Also, regular cleaning sa bahay. Lalo na yung mga corner na hindi laging nalilinis. And gumamit ng damp cloth or mop instead of walis para hindi magkalat ang eggs sa hangin. So next is Trichuris, Trichura, or human whipworm. So whipworm eggs are barrel-shaped with a hyaline plug at each end. Adult worms have a whip-like appearance with a thin, colorless anterior and a thicker, pinkish posterior. Males have a curled tail. So, bakit siya tinawag na whipworm? Kasi kung titigan nyo siya under the microscope, yung shape niya is parang latigo. Manipis sa unahan, makapal sa likod. So, super unique ng itsura niya among other parasites. So, ito rin ay isang parasitic roundworm na tumitira sa loob ng intestine ng tao, specifically sa large intestine. So, this parasite causes a disease called trichuriasis at common siya lalo na sa mga lugar na walang maayos na kalinisan. For example, sa mga lugar na walang maayos na CR or di naguhugas ng kamay after mag-CR. So, possible na kumalat ito. So, infection occurs when a person ingests food or water contaminated with feces containing infective eggs. The larvae hatch in the small intestine, mature in the colon, and begin to mate and produce thousands of eggs daily, which are then passed out in the feces. So, paano nakakahawa ang whipworm? So, ang mode of transmission niya is fecal-oral route. So, ibig sabihin, nanggagaling siya sa feces o dumi ng taong infected. So, pag di naghugas ng kamay, after magbanyo, tapos humawak sa pagkain, then nalilipat ang eggs ng parasite sa bibig. At pag nakain na siya, doon na nagsisimula yung infection. For example is, let's say, kumain ka ng hilaw na gulay, tapos hindi siya nahugasan ng maayos. Pwede palang may nakadikit na microscopic eggs ng whipworm. So, once na mapasok siya sa body, the eggs hatch in the small intestine. Tapos yung larvae, pupunta sa large intestine kung saan sila nagmamature. So, doon, nagiging adult worms na sila and they start to lay eggs. Yung eggs na yon lalabas ulit through poop. Kaya, kapag di maayos ang waste disposal, kakalat lang ulit yung infection. So, it's a cycle. Kaya, it's a cycle, kaya very important ang proper hygiene. So, next is epidemiology and pathogenesis. So, whipworm is the third most common roundworm in humans, commonly found in tropical regions and areas with poor sanitation. Infection occurs through the ingestion of contaminated food or water, especially where human feces is used as fertilizer or open defecation is practiced. Children are most at risk due to the contact with contaminated soil, and adult worms empty their whip-like front ends into the intestinal lining but do not typically cause significant anemia. So, sa buong mundo is pangatlong Trichuris trichiura sa pinaka-common na roundworms na nakaka-infect sa tao. So, sobrang laganap siya sa tropical countries tulad ng Philippines, lalo na sa rural areas kung saan minsan walang access sa proper toilet or tubig. So, ang mga bata ay madalas ma-infect kasi mahilig sila maglaro ng lupa. Tapos, kung minsan is hindi sila naguhugas ng kamay before kumain. So, once na nasa loob na ng large intestine, yung maninipis na part ng worm pumapasok sa lining ng bituka. So, doon sila kumakapit at nagsasak ng nutrients. So, although hindi siya kasing grabe ng ibang parasites like hookworm na cause ng anemia, kapag sobrang dami ng worm sa tiyan, nagkakaroon siya ng inflammation, tissue damage, at minsan is bleeding. So, ito naman is yung life cycle ng whipworm or Trichuris trichiura. So, una is, ang infected na tao is maglalabas ng embryonated egg sa feces. Hindi pa siya nakakahawa ito. So, pangalawa, kapag napunta sa lupa, nagmamature ang eggs after 2 to 3 weeks at nagiging embryonated ito na yung. So, ito na yung nakakahawa. Pangatlo is kapag nakain ng tao yung embryonated eggs, usually galing sa contaminated na foods or maruming kamay, magha-hatch siya sa small intestine. Next is yung larvae lilipat sa large intestine, tapos dyan sila magiging adult worm. Lastly, yung adult female maglalabas ulit ng egg sa feces. So, paulit-ulit lang na cycle kapag wala siyang proper sanitation. So, for example is, kapag hindi naghugas ng kamay before kumain, pwedeng malunok yung eggs at ma-infect. Kaya, super important talaga ang proper hygiene. So, ang tawag sa disease niya is trichuriasis. So, the severity of trichuriasis symptoms depends on the number of worms present. In children with heavy infection, symptoms may mimic ulcerative colitis, including bloody, mucoid diarrhea, severe anemia, growth retardation, rectal prolapse, and hyperperistalsis. Rectal prolapse happens due to irritation and straining during defecation. In adults, symptoms are similar to inflammatory bowel disease such as abdominal pain, tenderness, weakness, and dysentery. So, ang sakit na dala ng whipworm ay tinatawag na trichuriasis. So, kung mild lang ang infection, minsan wala ka talagang mararamdaman, like parang normal lang siya. Pero kung maraming worms, mas grabe na yung symptoms. So, may bloody diarrhea or minsan mucus na dumi. Stomach cramps, parang laging may LBM, weakness, at minsan weight loss. So, sa mga bata, worst case, pwedeng mag-cause ng rectal prolapse. Yung parang lumalabas yung part ng rectum dahil sa sobrang pag-ire. So, for example, isang batang malnourished, tapos madalas maglaro sa lupa and hindi naguhugas ng kamay. So, mataas ang risk niya na magkaroon ng ganitong infection. So, let's talk about what they look like. So, the adult whipworm has a body na parang whip, kaya nga whipworm. So, manipis yung unahan tapos makapal sa likod. So, ang female is usually mas mahaba, around 35 to 50 mm. Tapos, yung male ay mga 30 to 45 mm. So, kung titingnan yung eggs sa microscope, makikita mong barrel shape sila. So, parang football na may plug sa magkabilang dulo. So, this plug is one of the of its identifying features. So, sa stool sample, ito yung hinahanap ng mga medtechs para ma-confirm ang infection. So, diagnosis is confirmed by demonstrating the presence of characteristic eggs in stool specimens. So, to diagnose trichuriasis, usually ginagawa ay yung stool examination. So, kukuha ng sample ng dumi ng patient, tapos i-examine siya under a microscope. So, ang hinahanap ng medtech ay yung egg ng whipworm. Yung may classic na barrel shape with bipolar plugs. So, kapag nakita yun sa stool, confirmed na may trichurias infection. So, treatment is drugs of choice for treatment are mebendazole or albendazole. So, good news is madaling gamutin ang trichuriasis. So, ang gamot na ginagamit is mebendazole or albendazole. Ito is mga antiparasitic meds na kayang patayin ang worm sa loob ng katawan. So, usually, iniinom lang siya for 3 days or more, depending sa bigat ng infection. Pero, syempre, dapat guided by a doctor. Lalo na kung bata ang may sakit or kung malnourished na. So, hindi rin agad-agad mawala yung symptoms. So, kailangan is may follow-up check-ups. So, prevention and control. Effective preventive and control measures include health education, proper sanitation, good personal hygiene, and avoidance of use of human feces as fertilizer. So, syempre, prevention is better than cure. So, para maiwasan ang whipworm infection, kailangan is, syempre, proper hygiene. So, hugas ng kamay after gumamit ng CR and before kumain. Then, wash vegetables and fruits properly, lalo na kung raw or fresh siya kakainin. Then, proper disposal of human waste. So, kung may open defecation, mas lalaganap talaga yung parasites. And then, health education, lalo na sa mga bata. Turuan natin sila ng tamang paghuhugas ng kamay and umiwas sa maduming pagkain or tubig. And sa schools or communities, pwedeng mag-conduct ng deworming programs regularly to control spread.
So, ngayon po, pag-uusapan natin ang dalawang uri ng hookworms o ang dalawang common na hookworm species. First, we have the Ancylostoma duodenale at ang Necator americanus. So, ang dalawang hookworms na ito ay may 4 na life cycle or stages. First ay ang egg. Second, which is the rhabditiform larva or ang feeding stage. Pangatlo ay ang filariform larva na siya namang infective stage. And lastly, the adult worm. Sinasabi rito na pareho lamang ang itsura ng itlog ng dalawang hookworms, pero pinagkaiba lamang ay ang kanilang sizes. Yung rhabditiform larva nila ay may mahahaba na buccal cavity at maliliit na genital primordium. Pag naging filariform larva na, hindi na ito kumakain or the non-feeding stage at may pointed tail na characteristics. At pag naging adult na sila, ma-identify nyo sila through their buccal capsule. Ang Necator americanus ay may cutting plates, while the Ancylostoma duodenale ay may mga ngipin. So, sa second slide, sinasabi rito ng hookworms daw, unlike sa ibang mga roundworms, sila ay nag-infect by the F. filariform larva na pumapasok through the skin, usually sa mga paa at legs ng isang host. Lalo na kung naglalakad ito sa lupa na kontaminado ng mga feces. Once na nakapasok na ang larva sa skin, pumapasok ito sa bloodstream tapos pupunta sa lungs. Aakyat ito sa airway at once na umubo ang isang host, sasama siya sa laway at nalulunok ng isang host. At magta-travel ito papunta sa small intestine at doon siya magmamature into adult worms. Didikit sa intestinal walls gamit ang cutting plates or teeth nila at magpapakain ng dugo. And doon na rin sila magmi-meet at mangingitlog. At yung egg na yun ay yun yung nakikita natin through the stool na sa examination natin. Karaniwan daw makikita ang hookworms na ito sa mga tropical countries gaya ng Pilipinas. Sinasabi rito na ang paglalakad ng nakapaa ay may malaking tsansa na pwede tayong ma-infect. Once na nakapasok ang larva sa paa or balat, maaaring magkakos ito ng irritation, and once ang larva ay nasa lungs, it can also cause inflammatory reactions na nagiging sanhi ng pag-ubo at paghihirap sa paghinga. Pero ang pinakamalalang epekto ng hookworms ay ang chronic blood loss sa small intestine, kung saan kumakapit at sumisipsip ng dugo ang mga adult worms. And dahil dito, maaaring mag-lead sa anemia o paghihina ng katawan. So, nakikita niyo po sa slide ang life cycle ng isang Ancylostoma duodenale. First stage, we have the egg. Dito na part, itlog pa lamang po sila. And sa second naman, magtuturn na sila into rhabditiform larva. Sa third stage naman po, mag-develop to filariform larva. And ang fourth stage, which is the penetration skin or mag-infect na siya. Tapos, papasok ang larva through the skin sa mga paa or sa legs ng isang host at saka papasok sa lungs ng isang host. Then, lalabas ito pag once nauubo ang isang host, and after that, malulunok ng host ang laway at magta-travel into the small intestine. At doon na sila mag-i-infect and magtuturn ng adult worms and doon na sila mag-mate at mag-create ng itlog na maaaring nalabas na naman sa stool ng isang host, and the cycle begins na naman ulit. So once na nakapasok sa skin ang filariform larva, magkakos ng pruritic papillae or vesicle or known as ground itch. Pagdating sa lungs, pwedeng mag-cause ng pneumonia na may kasamang eosinophilia or ang pagtaas ng white blood cells bilang reaksyon ng katawan. Pag nasa bituka naman sila, makakaranas ang isang host ng nausea, pagsusuka at diarrhea. And dahil nagasipsip ng dugo ang isang adult worm, pwede tayong magkaroon ng microcystic hypochronic anemia or iron deficiency, or magkakaroon ng secondary bacterial infection sa part ng bituka kung saan dumidikit ang bulate. So sa laboratory diagnosis, sa stool exam, makikita ang manipis na shell ng itlog ng hookworms. Madalas may occult blood sa dumi at mataas ang eosinophils ng dugo. Sa blood smear naman, makikita ang microcystic at hypochromic anemia. Minsan may larvae din sa plema kung nasa lungs pa lamang ang parasite. So sinasabi rito na para daw sa treatment, mainam ang mebendazole and parenteral pamoate, isang replacement therapy for anemia, and blood transfusion naman kung sa severe cases. Mas mainam na iwasan ang pag-infect ng roundworm sa ating katawan, and may iwasan ito sa pamagitan ng pagsuot ng sandals or sapin sa paa. So ngayon naman po ating pag-usapan ang Strongyloides stercoralis or isang threadworm. Ang itlog ng Strongyloides stercoralis ay may pagkapareho ng hookworm eggs, pero may dalawang pinagkaiba. Mas maliit ang ova ng strongyloid at meron na itong well-developed na larvae sa loob. While ang egg ng rhabditiform larva naman ng strongyloids ay may mas mahabang buccal cavity at mas maliit na genital primordium kumpara sa hookworm larvae. Just like hookworms, filariform larvae din ang infection stage nito. So, sinasabi rito na may mas mahaba daw na esophagus at may notched tail daw ang lariform larva ng stercoralis, habang ang hookworms ay tail-pointed ang filariform. So, sinasabi rito na ang Strongyloides stercoralis ay kakaiba sa ibang intestinal roundworms dahil may dalawang life cycle ito. Isa sa loob ng katawan ng tao at isa sa labas, which is sa lupa. Same sa hookworms, pumapasok ito sa katawan sa pamamagitan ng balat gamit ang filariform larvae. Magsisimula na rito ang human cycle na may long phase rin, katulad ng sa hookworms. Pero ang pinagkaiba lang, hindi siya sa eggs nagsisimula, kundi sa rhabditiform larvae na lumalabas sa feces ng tao at sa warm and moist na lupa, magiging infectious floriform larva ulit ito. Sa indirect cycle, lumalabas sa feces ng tao ang rhabditiform larvae, tapos sa lupa, magiging filariform larvae, at nagde-develop na into adult worms. Then yung adult worms na yon ay mangingitlog at ang itlog ay nagiging rhabditiform larvae ulit. Then dito na siya mag-start mag-infect at pwedeng pumasok sa new host. Dito na magsisimula ang direct cycle. Then meron tayong tinatawag na auto-infection, kung saan yung rhabditiform larvae sa loob ng bituka ay nagiging filariform larvae, tapos pumapasok sa lymphatic system o bloodstream ng isang tao. It happens within the same person, kaya hindi kailangan niyang new host. So, sinasabi din na ang threadworm ay common sa buong mundo, lalo na sa mga tropical countries and subtropical, lalo na sa agricultural areas kung saan madalas ang contact sa lupa. Katulad ng hookworms, nagpipenetrate din ito sa skin at nagkukos ng ground itch. Sa lungs naman, ang larvae ay nag-trigger ng inflammation na parang ascaris. Sa bituka, ang adult worm ay nagdudulot ng pamabaga at diarrhea. At sa kaso ng autoimmune infection, pwedeng masira ang lining ng bituka at magdudulot ng infection at mauuwi sa sepsis. Sinasabi rito na ang pasyente na may light threadworm infection ay madalas na walang sintomas. Pero gaya ng sa hookworm, pwedeng magkasanhi ng irritation sa area kung saan pumasok ang larvae. At pwede rin silang makarating sa baga at mag-cause ng pneumonitis sa bituka. Ang adult worm ay pwedeng magdulot ng diarrhea at abdominal pain. Sa autoinfection naman, it can lead to chronic infection, increase the risk of hyperinfection syndrome, which can be fatal, lalo na sa mga immunocompromised patient, like yung may mga cancer, HIV, umiinom ng steroids na pwedeng mauwi sa komplikasyon. Sa laboratory diagnosis, para daw ma-diagnose ang threadworm infection, hinahanap daw ang rhabditiform larvae sa mga fresh na stool. 3 beses raw ang kailangan upang makita ang itlog sa magkaibang araw, dahil hindi siya madaling lumabas. Pwede rin silang makita sa pamamagitan ng plema kung nasa lung phase na sila. Sa severe cases, madalas mataas ang eosinophils. Serologic tests like ELISA are also available for diagnosis. So, sa treatment daw, meron tayong gamot para dito. We have the envermectin, mebendazole, and thiambendazole. Ang envermectin para patayin ang mga parasitic worm. Common type of drugs to use dahil mabilis at epektibo. Ang mebendazole naman, gamot sa bulate sa tiyan. Habang ang thiambendazole ay anti-parasitic drugs na ginagamit laban sa strongyloids, sometimes may side effect. Kaya second option lamang ito. So, sa prevention and controls, it includes thorough health education, proper sanitation, and sewage disposal, and wearing a proper footwear.
Good day everyone, I am Zohara Tanding and I will be discussing first Capillaria philippinensis or Cudicorn. Capillaria philippinensis was first identified in the Philippines in 1963 with a fatal human case. Outbreaks in 1967 to 1968 caused over 100 deaths. Unlike other intestinal roundworms, its natural hosts are migratory fish-eating birds. The cycle begins when unembryonated eggs are released through phases into fresh water, where they embryonate and are eaten by fish, commonly called bugsit in Ilocos. The larvae insist in the fish tissue and humans get infected by eating raw or uncooked fish. In the human small intestine,
larvae mature and lay eggs. Some eggs may embryonate inside the intestines, leading to an autoinfection. Capillaria philippinensis is endemic in the Philippines. Ibig sabihin po nito is nanggaling talaga siya sa Philippines, and particularly in the Ilocos region and parts of Leyte, with some cases reported in Thailand. The disease occurs when a large number of worms develop inside the host, causing microulcers in the intestinal lining. In severe cases, this can lead to malabsorption syndrome. So as you can see, guys, the life cycle of Capillaria philippinensis first is embryonated thick-shelled eggs passed in fasces. The next, eggs become embryonated in water. Third one is ineffective larvae develop in the tissue of intermediate host. And the fourth is ingestions of raw or undercooked of infected fish. And fifth is adults in small intestinal mucosa. Then the sixth is females may produce two types of eggs, and unembryonated eggs passed in the feces, and embryonated eggs lacking shells or hatch inside the definitive host. Seventh is larvae reinvade small intestinal mucosa in autoinfective cycle. The disease is intestinal capillariasis. Intestinal capillariasis cause abdominal pain, pananakit ng tiyan, borborygmus or gurgling stomach. Ito yung parang kumukuling stomach natin, o parang may something sound na parang kumukulo talaga siya, and a chronic diarrhea, pananakit ng tiyan, which leads to weight loss. Ibig sabihin, papayat tayo dito. This is worsened by loss of appetite. Nawawalan tayo ng gana kumain, nausea, and vomiting, pagsusuka. The condition also results in malabsorption of nutrients like fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, along with electrolyte imbalances, which can become fatal if untreated. Okay. The laboratory diagnosis. Diagnosis is confirmed by demonstrations of the characteristics eggs in stool specimens. In high worm burden, larvae as well as adult worms may also be demonstrated in stool. Treatment. Albendazole is the drug of choice for treating intestinal capillariasis, with mebendazole as an alternative. Treatment should last for at least 20 days to fully eliminate the parasite. Relapses can happen if the regimen isn't followed properly. In severe cases, patients may need electrolyte replacement and a high-protein diet to manage malabsorption and electrolyte loss. Prevention and control. Preventive measures include adequate and thorough cooking of freshwater fish before consumption, especially in endemic areas. Other measures include proper human waste disposal, health education, and prompt treatment of an infected person. The second one is Wuchereria bronckhorsti, Bronckhorst filarial worm, and Brugia malayi or Malayan filarial worm. Wuchereria bronckhorsti and Brugia Wuchereria bronckhorsti and Brugia malayi are mosquito-borne parasites that exist in two main forms. So, ibig sabihin, nabubuo sila sa dalawang form. First, adult worms and microfilariae or larvae. The adult worms are thread-like and white, while the microfilariae are covered with a transparent sheath. Humans get infected through mosquito bites, and the larvae migrate to and mature in the lymphatic subcutaneous tissues or body cavities. These parasites show periodicity, appearing in the bloodstream at specific times, it could be night, day, or irregularly, matching the feeding habits of the mosquito vector. So as you can see, guys, dito sa life cycle of Wuchereria bronckhorsti, which is similar to that of Brugia malayi. First, mosquito takes blood meal. Larvae entered the skin daw. And the second one is, ito pa is human stages pa lang dito sa adults and lymphatics. The third one, adults produce sheath microfiliary that enter peripheral circulation. Fourth one is mosquito takes a blood, ingest microfiliary. Microfiliary sheaths penetrate mosquitoes midgut and migrate to thoracic muscles. Sixth one is larvae. Then seventh one is L3 larvae. Eighth one is migration to mosquito head and proboscis. Dito sa bandang gilid is mosquito stages na siya. Epidemiology and pathogenesis. Filariasis symptoms mainly result from lymphatic obstruction caused by adult worms, leading to limb swelling or edema. Ito yung, ang edema kasi, ibig sabihin ng edema is, yun yung parang fluid na nasa loob ng katawan natin or nasa specific part of our body na nagkakaroon ng water. And when you touch this or like you tawag dito, gaganunin natin siya, itatap natin siya is parang nagbabounce siya. Yun yung edema. The adult worms trigger inflammatory and fibrotic or scarring reactions in the lymph vessels. In contrast, microfiliary usually cause milder or less severe symptoms. Ang disease is filariasis. Symptoms of filariasis may vary depending on the species. The clinical course may be divided into the three stages: asymptomatic, acute, and chronic. Sa asymptomatic stage, thousands of microfiliary are present in the blood. Adult swarms reside in lymphatic vessels, but there are no visible symptoms. Yet wala pang makikitang symptoms dito sa asymptomatic stage. At dito naman sa acute stage, also known as adenolymphatitis, fever and lymph nodes inflammation occur. In Broncos filariasis, male genitalia are infected or epididymitis or orchitis, while Brugia infections usually affect the limbs. In females, the breast lymphatics may be involved. Recurrent symptoms may include lymphangitis and localized swelling or inflammation. Calabar swellings or transient subcutaneous swelling may also appear. Dito naman sa chronic stage, develop over years and it's marked by chronic edema and repeated inflammation. Leads to lymphatic obstruction, especially in the legs and genitalia, causing elephantiasis or hard or enlarged limbs. Hydrocele, chronic epididymitis, and scrotal thickening or common in Broncos filariasis. In Malayan filariasis, limb swelling below the knees and large lymph nodes or epithelial inguinal axillary may occur, but scrotal involvement is rare. Dito ipapakita ko dito ang example, yung example nito is lumalaki yung mga legs natin, yung kabilang paa, while the other dito talaga siya nakafocus sa involving the lower extremities. So ibig sabihin nito nasa baba lang talaga siya. And ang cases of elephantiasis involving the lower extremities, dito siya nakafocus. Okay. Ang laboratory diagnosis niya is the recommended drugs for treating filariasis include diethyl carbamazine or DEC and ivermectin, often combined with albendazole, While DEC and ivermectin are effective against microfilariae, higher doses are needed to kill the adult worms. In some cases, microsurgery may be required to remove parasites obstructing the lymphatics. Supportive measures such as inflammatory drugs to reduce inflammation and the use of elastic bandage or limb elevation can help reduce swelling in affected limbs. Prevention and control. The WHO Division of Control of Tropical Diseases recommends mass treatment in endemic areas. In the Philippines, a filariasis control program was launched in 2001 involving mass treatment using a combination of DEC and albendazole, which led to the elimination of infection in some areas. Other prevention measures include using mosquito nets and repellents, applying insecticides to control mosquito vectors, wearing protective clothing, and providing health education to the population. Okay, that is my topic is all about. Thank you for watching.
Trichinella spiralis, Marcel worm, Trichinella worm. Ang parasit na ito ay may dalawang anyo, larvae at adult worm. Ang larvae ay paikot ng itsura at bumabalot sa kalamnan bilang cyst na may kasamang nurse dust. Karaniwang host ito ang pig pero pwede rin ang ibang hayop. Nahawa ang tao sa pagkain ng hilaw o hindi maayos na luto na karne ng pig na may cyst. Sa tiyan, pinalalaya ng asido ang larvae mula sa cyst at tumutungo ito sa bituka para maging adult worm. Pagkatapos, naglalabas ang babae ng larvae na dumadaan sa dugo at napupunta sa mga kalamnan kung saan sila muling nagiging cyst. Wala itong egg states, kakaiba sa ibang nematodes. Epidemiology and pathogenesis. Ang infeksyon sa Trichinella spiralis ay laganap sa buong mundo, lalo na sa Europe at United States kung saan karaniwan ang pagkain ng hilaw na karne. Bukod sa pig, maaari ring mahawa ang deer, viruses, at daga. Mas malala ang sintomas kung mas marami ang blatis sa katawan. Karaniwang may sintomas ang may 100 o higit pang bulate. Ang larvae na nasa kalamnan ay nagdudulot ng pamamaga na pwedeng maging granuloma at kalaunay tumigas o mag-calcify. Trichinosis progress in 3 phases. Trichinosis progress in 3 phases. Number 1 is enteric phase. Sa yugtong ito, nagsisimula ang infeksyon sa bituka, maaaring makaranas ng pagtatae, pananakit ng tiyan at pagsusuka. Number 2, invasion phase. Dito, lumilipat ang mga larvae sa mga kalamnan ng may guhit. Nagdudulot ito ng pamamaga sa mukha at paligid ng mata, lagnat, pananakit ng kalamnan, conjunctivitis, pantal at contacts ng eosinophils. Kapag naapektuhan ang puso, pwede magdulot ng myocarditis na maaaring ikamatay. Number 3, convalescent phase. Sa huling yugto, unti-unting nawawala ang mga sintomas at nagsisimula ang paggaling, ngunit sa ilang bihirang kaso maaaring mauwi sa pagkamatay dahil sa heart failure or respiratory paralysis. Laboratory diagnosis. Ang tiyan sa diagnosis ng trichinosis ay ginagawa sa pamamagitan ng muscle biopsy kung saan nakikita ang mga kapsulang larvae. Sa dugo, karaniwang makikita ang mataas na eosinophils, leukocytes at muscle enzymes tulad ng LDH, Adules at CPK. May mga serologic test din, ngunit maaaring may negative sa unang bahagi ng infeksyon kaya maaaring kailangan ng paulit-ulit na pagsusuri. Treatment. Ang trichinosis ay kadalasang gumagaling ng pusa at hindi nangangailangan ng gamot. Maaaring ibigay ang bed rest, gamot sa sakit, analgesic para maibsan ang sintomas. Sa malulubhang kaso, maaaring magreseta ng corticosteroids. And then, Bendazole ay maaaring gamitin sa unang linggo ng infeksyon upang patayin ang adult forms, ngunit wala itong epekto sa mga lumilipat na larvae. Prevention and control. Mahalaga ang tamang edukasyon sa kalusugan para maiwasan ang trichinosis. Dapat diagnostic tuwing mabuti ang karne upang mamatay ang mga larvae. Chapter Summary. Ang mga nematode o bilog na bulate ay mga advanced na parasite na may sariling sistema ng panunaw, reproduction, paglabas ng dumi at nerves. Nahati sila sa tatlong uri: intestinal, blood tissue, at intestinal tissue nematodes. Ang mga intestinal nematodes tulad ng Ascaris and Enterobius ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng pagkain, habang ang hookworms at strongyloids ay sa balat. Ang blood tissue nematodes tulad ng Wuchereria bancrofti ay naipapasa sa kagat ng lamok. Ang Trichinella sparalis, isang intestinal tissue nematode, ay nakukuha mula sa hindi lutong pig. Ginagamitan ng blood test para sa diagnosis at ang paggamot ay depende sa uri ng infeksyon.